Okay, so welcome everyone. I'm super excited to share this class, 7 Super Stress Busters. And I think you're going to find that this isn't your usual stress relief class. I've been to many of them. I probably taught many of them. And what I wanted to do in this program was actually give you some things that you probably haven't heard before, or maybe you've heard of them, but you haven't heard the little twist, the important little twist. All right, so I'm going to open up some slides and share those with you now. And we'll move through those slides. And then at the end, I'll open it up for questions. All right. So this shouldn't take super long. I'm from New York originally, so I'm actually a really fast talker. I hope that's okay for everybody. It means that your classes with me go faster, so hopefully that's good. And we can generally cover a lot of information. I am in personality profiling. I'm a green, so if any of you have done that. So I love a lot of information. If you're not a green, if you're a blue, then just take, right? And you might not even know, but blues tend to like a little less information, a little bit more fun. We'll try to make it fun, but you don't have to remember all of this. You don't have to memorize it. It'll be accessible for you so you can come back to it anytime you want. Just take the pieces that resonate for you, listen for the things that say, yeah, this is really one of the things you should implement, right? Or this is an area that you can really work on, okay? All right, so 7 super stress busters with me, Kelly Malloy. So just a little bit about me for those of you who don't know me. I think everybody here actually knows me pretty well, but I've been a certified health coach since 2008. I graduated from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition in New York City. I've actually been teaching, educating people on essential oils even before I became a health coach. So that's since 2006. I do a lot of things to help and support people in their health, including running cleanses. And I'm also an author. I wrote a book called Live Free and Dream. So why are we talking about stress? Well, I think all of us know why in this present time, why we're talking about stress. But even in normal life, stress impacts everything, right? It impacts your ability to think well, so your cognitive thinking and abilities, your focus, your physical abilities, your energy, right? If you're stressed, it's going to tap or sap your energy. It actually impacts your digestion as well, your ability to fight infection or your immunity, which I'm sure many of us are interested in making sure is working really well. But it impacts moods and relationships if you're stressed. The root of all degenerative disease can be found in stress. It creates oxidative damage in the body, known as oxidative stress, and it also can lead to nutrient deficiencies. So it's not just, and I think we often have the tendency to underestimate it a little bit and say, yeah, I'm stressed, but like that's just life, right? Or I'm stressed, but I'll just deal with it. And I don't think we're really giving credit to just how much damage stress can do in our bodies if we don't address it, if we don't figure out healthy ways to mitigate that stress. So that's what I'm hoping to share with you and teach you tonight, okay? So the truth of the matter is we can't completely avoid stress, all right? I mean, unless you go off somewhere and live in a cave by yourself, which, you know, some of the yogis have done, you can't completely avoid stress. And there's also, you know, there's good stress and there's bad stress. Sometimes we have a promotion or we move somewhere that we want to move or we get a new house. Even positive stress can have an impact on the body. So we have to develop strategies and routines that can support our bodies, whether it's in that everyday routine stress or in times when we have really heightened stress. All right. And I see people all the time who aren't just dealing with stress, but their lifestyle, the amount of stress in their lifestyle leads to chronic illness and chronic things like anxiety and depression, right? So the longer we go without addressing stress or without implementing these strategies, the more likely we are to have a chronic challenge like anxiety or depression, right? And nobody wants that, right? Nobody wants to live that way. So let's talk about step number 1. This is our first in the 7 super stress busters. This is number 1. And of course it's food because I'm a foodie. But most people, I don't think, really connect how food relates to stress. All right, and now food can actually be a cause of some stress if you're eating foods that your body's sensitive to, or if they're allergens, right? So some of us know we have food sensitivities or food allergies, and that actually eating that food can create a stress on the body, can actually raise our cortisol levels and launch a whole immune system reaction that is very, very stressful to our bodies. But what I'm going to talk to you more about tonight is how food can be a support for stress, right? How it can actually be an ally for you. So when we're looking at ways to use food in times of stress, I want you to think about the fact that when you're under stress, there are two things that happen in terms of food. One is you blow through your nutrients much more quickly. So you know when people stress eat, when a lot of people are talking about being stressed, especially right now, and they're eating constantly, right? Or they're eating things they normally wouldn't eat. A lot of that is because when we're stressed, our body uses up nutrients much faster, okay? And as a result of that, you have cravings, right? Because your body says, wow, I've got no more magnesium. Go get me some, right? So you're blowing through your nutrients much more quickly when you're under stress, and therefore you're going to be getting more signals to eat, all right? In addition to that, when you're stressed, your body is going to be high in cortisol, right? Cortisol is our stress response hormone. It's secreted by the adrenal glands whenever you're under stress. Whether it's physical stress, emotional stress, it doesn't matter. And when your cortisol is high, like I think a lot of us might be, pretty high in cortisol, it shuts off something called serotonin. And serotonin is the brain chemical that controls your cravings, it controls your impulses, and it controls your mood. It tells you when it's high, when it's optimum, it says, all is well, life is good, all right? But when it's not, when it's shut off by cortisol, you'll have more cravings, less impulse control, and you'll be more apt to feel sort of down in the dumps, which then we can also self-medicate with food, all right? So there's a reason why we stress eat. And I just want you to understand that it's not a weakness. It's not that you don't have willpower. It's really, there's a biochemical reason why stress causes us to eat more and maybe eat the wrong things. Okay? So what can we do instead? Well, the first and most important thing is to look at food as a way to fortify and replenish. So if we're blowing through nutrients really quickly, then it's so important during stress to make sure we're getting nutrients, that we're really pouring into our body excellent food, right? Food that is high in nutrients. So that's really, really important. So even if you have the cravings for the other stuff, make sure you're getting the good stuff in. Make sure you're really looking at food as a way to fortify yourself, not just to subside or deal with the cravings, not just to fill your belly, but to actually fortify your body. Okay? And then at the same time, we want to look at fortifying the serotonin levels so that even if you have stress, you can help keep your serotonin higher so you don't have the cravings, you don't have the problems with impulse control, and that your mood is better. All right? So if you start thinking of food that way, as really an ally in times of stress, and even make a plan. So if you knew, like, I have people that are accountants, let's say, and if they know, if they know going into tax season, that's going to be a stressful time in their lives. So they'll plan ahead, right? If they're working with me, we plan ahead and we say, okay, we've got to make sure that you've got some really healthy foods available, easy to grab, prepared in the freezer, right? We've got to plan ahead going into that stressful time to make sure that you have what you need to be successful, okay? The other piece with food, besides, you want to have a good amount of protein, because protein is one of the things that's actually going to give you amino acids that will help to raise your serotonin. And you also want to have a high level of antioxidants. All right, antioxidants are important. Why? Because stress creates oxidative damage in the body. So whenever you're under stress, you're literally creating more oxidative damage. So antioxidants, which you get from brightly colored fruits and vegetables, berries, things like that. I use Ningxia, which is a drink that's super high in antioxidants. But that's another piece of this, because you want to make sure you're replenishing and fortifying your body with the nutrients that it's going through quickly. Okay, so protein, antioxidants are really important. Actually, green tea is another source of antioxidants. So during times of stress, if green tea works for you, that might be something you add in, or you add in more, blueberries, raspberries, that kind of thing. Okay. The other piece with food and stress is try to be consistent with your meals. So a lot of times what happens is if we're stressed because we're busy, then maybe we're skipping meals because we're just trying to get things done. That's a huge no-no during stress, but it's very common. And the reason it's a no-no is because when you skip meals, you're going to be in a situation where your blood sugar is going to dip low. And guess what? That's a stress on your body. And when your blood sugar gets low, your cortisol goes high again, right? Do you remember what cortisol does? It's your stress response hormone, and it shuts off serotonin. The reason, by the way, that it shuts off serotonin, so just try to understand this piece. Your serotonin tells your body, everything's good. You're chill, you're relaxed, you're not hungry, you don't need anything. If you have stress because you have to run from a lion, your body doesn't want you to be chill. Your body doesn't want you to be relaxed, right? So it shuts that off. It says, no, 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 we don't want her to sit and relax. We want her to run from the lion. So when your cortisol is high, it shuts down the serotonin, okay? So if you stay consistent with your meals, that's going to help to make sure your blood sugar stays stable, and it's also going to help to make sure that that serotonin doesn't get shut off again, because low blood sugar is an added stress. It's another way and another reason why our cortisol spikes, okay? You with me? This is probably the most detailed part of tonight, but I think it's so important to understand this and understand, how food relates to stress in our bodies. Okay. And then the last piece is really just about cravings. So many people right now, I want to help them all. I just want to grab everybody and help them because so many people are having a lot of cravings, right? We're eating a lot more sugar and a lot more caffeine to deal with stress. And it's the exact opposite of what can help you and support you in being less stressed. Right? So sugar is going to do that crazy thing with your blood sugar. It's going to cause that cortisol release. It's actually going to cause a temporary release of serotonin. And so you'll feel good, but only for a little bit of time. And then you'll need more and more and more. All right. So right now, I know a lot of people are self-medicating, literally self-medicating with sugar, right? To try to feel better. But it's the exact opposite of what would actually help. Okay, so sugar and caffeine are really not helpful when stressed. So if you're having cravings for those things, if you find yourself eating more sugar or carbs, then go back to the top. Fortify and replenish with protein and antioxidants. Be consistent with your meals. Keep your blood sugar balanced. Make sure you're getting protein at every meal to help with that. And really think about feeding your brain. Right? So serotonin, when we feed the brain right, then we'll have more optimal levels of serotonin. Okay? Our head's spinning? Is everybody good? Okay. So I know that's a lot of information. There's actually an entire class that I do just on sugar and serotonin, which I'll probably do in the next couple of weeks, just because I know so many people are struggling with that. But just when you're stressed or when you know you're going into a stressful time, look at food as a way to fortify and replenish, not just as a way to give comfort or be a distraction or give you pleasure, which it can still give you pleasure, but okay? Good on food? Oh, I did want to tell you a couple of other things. So these are the extras on food. Some superfoods would be really wonderful. All right, superfoods are things that actually, we call them adaptogens. They help the body better deal with stress. Okay, things like ashwagandha. I know these are big words. If you don't know them, just ask me, text me, and I'll send them to you. Ashwagandha, maca, M-A-C-A, maca root, comes usually in a powder. Chaga, which is a mushroom that actually grows on, is it black birch? I think it's black birch. My neighbor is a chaga hunter, so I get my chaga from him. But these are goji berries. So there are lots of different superfoods that you can implement into your diet when you're under stress, and they literally help your body better deal with stress. Okay, so those are a couple: ashwagandha, maca, chaga, and goji berries. Supplements to look at when you're really stressed, so things that will blow through very quickly, B vitamins. So if you're not taking good multi, or you're already typically low in B vitamins, or if you're vegan or vegetarian, another really important reason to look at B vitamins, but some of the key vitamins to look at during stress would be B vitamins, zinc, vitamin D3, if you're not doing that, super important for your serotonin, and of course, vitamin C. Okay, those are really important. And there's others, omega-3s, also great. You know, I take those all the time. Those are like a normal part of my, ritual. But if you're not, especially during times of stress, I would look at those. Okay, I'm not prescribing, so definitely talk to your doctor. I'm not intending to diagnose or treat, but those are some supplements that you might want to look at to help your body better deal with stress. And there's lots more, but those are just a few. Okay. And we talked about antioxidants, so we're good on that. All right. Yay, we're on number 2, breathing. So we all know how to breathe, right? Like, what is there to even talk about here? This isn't like a silly thing for me to tell you is a stress buster. Well, maybe not, because a lot of us aren't necessarily even breathing right. So I want you to right now check in with your body and notice how your breath is. So I know I need to take a deep breath right now. I've been talking fast and not breathing. So a lot of the time when we're under stress, we're not breathing fully or deeply. We're not actually oxygenating our brain. We're not calming down our cortisol, which the breath can literally do. So in times of stress, and this has been studied, and there are all kinds of research papers out on this, literally your breath and breathing techniques can change what happens in your body, what happens with cortisol, what happens with your stress response. Okay, it can interrupt these patterns in the brain. So many of us breathe because it happens automatically, but we're not necessarily connecting and saying, wow, when was the last time I took a really nice deep breath? When was the last time I really connected with my body and recognized how I was breathing? Right? Has everyone been breathing deep all day? No? Okay, me either. So there are a couple of there's lots of breathing techniques. I'm going to share just a couple with you. The simplest one ever is literally just to put your hand on your belly, okay? And I will tell you, honestly, I did not learn how to breathe until I was in my early 30s. So I was breathing this way, right? Deep breath meant my shoulders went up, rib cage went up, right? That's actually not the healthiest way to breathe. The healthiest way to breathe is put your hand on your belly, and when you inhale, your belly should actually extend. It should expand and come forward. Now, some of us are self-conscious about that, so you don't have to do that here right now, right? But we actually want to open things up and create space for the breath, almost like you're filling your belly as if it's a balloon, filling it with air, okay? And then when you exhale, that your belly should come in, your navel should come toward your spine, okay? So even if you just had, I saw something earlier this week that was shared on when you're washing your hands for 20 seconds, say a prayer. And I love that because I love linking things. Like if I want to create a habit, I always link it to something I'm already doing. So if I want to pray more, I'm going to definitely pray while I'm washing my hands, or pray while I'm making my tea, or link it to something that I automatically do already. And same thing with breathing, right? So you could say, when I wash my hands, I'm going to take 3 nice deep breaths, right? Or when I make my coffee, I'm going to, do some deep breathing. So that's just mindful breathing, just connecting with your body, noticing, how am I breathing right now? And how can I nourish my body, oxygenate my brain, calm down my central nervous system simply through the breath? Okay. Another breathing technique that's really popular is the 4-7-8 technique. And honestly, I've seen this 4-7-8 is what I learned. I've seen people do it, 5-7-9. I've seen all different versions of it. So I don't know that the counts are exactly critical, but you can kind of figure out what works for you. So the idea is to take a breath in 4 seconds through your nose, right? So breathe in for 4, hold it for 7. And rather than saying hold your breath, I'd rather say sustain the breath, right? So you don't, sometimes holding your breath, and don't do this yet because I'm going to keep talking. Holding your breath can sound, it can actually generate a little bit of fear in people, right? So you take in a breath on the count of, to the count of 4. You sustain for 7, and then you exhale through your mouth with your lips pursed for 8. All right, so you can try that while I'm talking if you want to. In for 4, sustain for 7, and then exhale for 8. Now, you just don't want to do this while you're driving because it's actually been proven to be incredibly relaxing. All right, and there's all kinds of studies that have been done on it, but it might be too relaxing if you're driving or if you're operating heavy machinery or something. All right, so practice this at home, 4, 7, 8. All right, and I just encourage you to see what happens. All right, so literally, just through breathing, we can change the stress response in our bodies. We can oxygenate the brain, we can calm down the cortisol just through using the breath. Okay, so that's a simple one, right? I think everybody can do that now. Movement. Well, this one's obvious, right? You know this, but I think I'm going to teach you something a little bit different with movement. So movement raises your serotonin. Remember, that's your feel-good brain chemical. It puts the brakes on impulses and it controls your cravings. So really, really good to have good levels of serotonin, especially when you're under stress. But movement also will increase your beta endorphins. And beta endorphins are your natural pain relievers. All right, it's another chemical in the body, natural chemical in the body, that if you fell, you know, you hit your knee or you hit your elbow, the chemical messengers would release the beta endorphins, and that would make it so that you didn't feel as much pain as there really was in that elbow. All right, so it actually is a response to pain that helps you to not feel it so intensely. It works for both physical and emotional pain. All right, so movement, exercise raises your serotonin. It also increases those beta endorphins, which will help us in times of emotional strain or stress. Okay, movement also will stimulate blood flow. It'll help burn through sugar if you're having any sugar. It helps to oxygenate the body. It helps to release toxins. But the problem with movement is if you don't love it, it can actually raise your stress. All right, so this is where a lot of times when I teach classes, I'll say, smile while you're doing the exercise, because that tells your body, that tells your brain, oh, she likes this. She's not running because there's a lion chasing her, which would cause that cortisol to spike. She's running because she loves it, right? So really, really important. Movement is great for stress relief as long as you enjoy it. All right, and I know this from lots of different research, but I even saw it in my practice working with women especially who were working ferociously to lose weight, right? And I had clients who were getting up at 4 in the morning to go do, say, a spin class. And that would have been fine if they loved doing spin class, but they were only doing spin class to try to lose weight. They weren't having fun, right? They weren't in there smiling. They were in there kind of dying the whole time. Right? So that was actually raising their cortisol. And it was really sad because I had women who were working out like that, like crazy every day, eating salads, you know, hardly eating any food, and the weight wasn't changing because their cortisol was high, right? And when your cortisol is high, it's going to shut off your serotonin, it's going to shut off your digestion, and it's going to cause your body to store more, right? It's going to actually say, store all of this, right? We have a stressful situation, put this in storage for later. Okay, so really super important with exercise. Whatever you do, make sure it's something you love and smile while you're doing it. So even in the hard parts, you know, even when you're doing the burpees or you're, you know, 2 minutes into a plank or, you know, you're in your 40th push-up. I can't even do 40 push-ups. However many push-ups you can barely do, like, you got to smile, all right, because it tells your body, okay, things are good. She actually wants to be doing this, okay? And then if you can actually exercise or do movement outside, way more benefits. So even like, I almost wanted to add, you know, number 8 to this, but the 7 super stress busters, just, you know, that alliteration works really well. But getting outside is huge for stress relief. So I tied it in here with movement, right? So if you can get out and walk, get out and do some kind of movement outside every day, at least 30 minutes outside can have a huge impact on your mood. Okay, so that could be really, really beneficial. All right, movement. Posture. All right, I'm looking at everybody's posture right now, myself included. So this one's kind of an interesting one. And I only learned about this in the last, I'd say 2 years really. But your physicality, the way you hold your body, literally changes your physiology. It changes chemicals in your body. It changes cortisol and it changes testosterone. So Amy Cuddy was a Harvard, or is a Harvard researcher, and she did a whole study on this idea that your posture can impact how you're feeling, how effective you are, how positive you are, and all kinds of other outcomes. So her study was actually related to people on interviews. And so they followed this group of people and studied them. They had them do certain postures. There's the link is here. I won't play it because I'm not sure it'll play through Zoom, but you can grab that link and watch it, or you can just Google Amy Cuddy, nonverbal expressions of power. And what she found was that the people that they had do power poses, which I'm going to show you a few, the people who did power poses before an interview, 10 out of 10 times got the job. The people who did the opposite of power poses did not get the job. And those candidates had the exact same qualifications, experience, everything else was exactly the same. The only thing that they did was they had them do the opposite of these postures. All right. So when we sit like this, hunched over, or like this, we are actually raising our cortisol levels and lowering testosterone. And I know most of us think of testosterone as just a male hormone, but actually it's used in the female body as well, for a lot of things, actually, a lot of good things. But it also gives us courage, right? It gives us strength and courage. So if you're sitting in certain postures, hunched forward, head down, you're actually lowering that sense of courage and strength. All right, so especially if you're going on an interview or you're in a situation where you have to, you know, kind of maintain your personal strength, then you don't want to be lowering your cortisol, lowering your testosterone, and you don't want to be raising your cortisol because that's going to make you more stressed. Okay, and when you're stressed, when you have high cortisol, it shuts off serotonin, that feel good brain chemical, and all of those things can be picked up on. So that's what her study showed. But the reason I share it isn't because you're necessarily going to go on an interview tomorrow. It's because by sitting and standing a certain way, we can change those chemicals in our body. We can lower our cortisol, feel less stressed, feel more powerful, more strong and solid. All right. So I showed you what a non-power pose is. A power pose is just the opposite. So sitting up straight, shoulders back, right? Like my mother told me 5,000 times in my years growing up. Also putting your hands on your hips, which for women is like, who do you think you are, right? If we put our hands on our hips, like the bossy lady. But the great thing is no one has to see you do it. You could go in your bathroom, you could go, you know, in your bedroom, put your hands on your hips, and you're calming down your cortisol and raising your testosterone. Okay, this is another power pose, hands behind the head and a lift in the heart. Right, so this is actually Oprah's favorite. If you see pictures of Oprah, often you'll see her like in her office, or she'll be sitting like this with her arms back, leaning back. That's a power pose. All right, my favorite can be done sitting or standing, and that's the V pose. So that's where the arms come up, right? You could look to the heavens if you want to, but the key is just to have those arms up in a V, all right? And in just seconds, I think it's 22 seconds, it changes your physiology. All right, so that's what's so amazing. I think 2 minutes is like the ideal to hold it, But even if you just hold it for, 20, 30 seconds, you're going to help to change the stress response in your body. All right, is that cool stuff? So power posing, right? And I actually recommend this to a lot of my clients if they're going into a tough conversation with someone. So it might not be an interview, but they might have to confront someone about something. They might have to have a tough discussion about something. They might have relationship challenges, whatever it is. And you can get in that power pose not to be domineering, not to be, belligerent, but just to have composure and to not be overrun by stress. Okay, so power posing. That's where posture comes in. I think that's a really fun one. And if you have any trouble finding that link, I would recommend watching it. There's a short version. It's literally only 2 minutes. She talks way faster than I do in it because they speed her up, but you can actually watch it in 2 minutes. All right, so that's the link, or you can just Google Amy Cuddy. All right, passionate positivity. So there's a little twist on this one too. You've probably heard, be positive, just keep thinking positive things. And, yes, we all want to do that, but it's not always that easy. And I'll tell you, one of the keys to this is really looking at who you listen to. And this is actually super appropriate right now. What we listen to and who we listen to has a huge impact on our stress levels. And you know this, right? A lot of us know that we should be turning off the news, but it's hard, right? A lot of us know we shouldn't be following certain threads or certain people or paying attention to certain posts, but we have to make a really concerted effort to avoid negativity right now. We really have to work hard at it. So that's one piece of who do you listen to. But the other part of who do you listen to is actually what's playing in your own head, right? Because sometimes, and for more of us than I know not, there's a negative station that's playing in your head. And so all day long, we're having this one-sided dialogue with ourselves where we're saying, oh, you did that wrong again, or you're never going to make that, or you're going to fail at this, you never follow through, you never finish. And we might be hearing, or you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, they're not going to like it. And we listen to that. We let that play over and over again. And I just want you to think about if that was on a radio station. So if you had a radio and you were listening to a station and it was static, it was like icky static. I don't even know if that's possible anymore. Would you keep listening to it? Or would you change the station? Right? I know, like in my car, I would change the station if it wasn't coming in well, right? Or if it had something on it I didn't like, I would change it. I wouldn't sit there and listen to it. But a lot of us listen to that all day long. We beat ourselves up all day long, and we just keep listening to it. So passionate positivity isn't just something you say, okay, I'm going to be more positive. It's first looking at who you're listening to outside of yourself and inside of yourself. And if you have a negative station, just become aware of it and start making the choice, I'm going to change that station. And there's a few ways you can do that, right? So one is just coming back with some compassionate self-talk, right? You can use affirmations. So if you're thinking, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, you can stop and you can actually say out loud, I'm doing the best I can. I'm making progress every day. I am getting better and better every time I try, right? Or I'm doing the work I need to do. I'm on the right path. So you can start saying these things. And the reason why I want you to say them out loud, even though you might think you're a crazy person or I'm a crazy person, is because your subconscious hears what you say. And the more you say things that your subconscious hears, the more it believes it to be true. So just like that negative stuff that's playing and you saying, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, guess what? Your subconscious believes you're not good enough. Even if you are, and you are, right? So we have to start saying out loud the things that we want our subconscious to believe. So I'll give you an example. This was at the beginning of my health journey in my early 30s. And I was not well. And I had worked really hard and still I was not well. And I came upon this concept. And so I just got up the next morning and I started saying, I am healthy. And at first it was like, no, you're not, Kelly. But I said it anyway. And I started saying it over and over again. I'm healthy. I am healthy. I'm healthy. I'm healthy. I'm strong. I'm healthy. I'm strong. And literally, I started to get better. I had been doing everything that I was supposed to do with food and exercise and everything else, but there were still some symptoms and issues that weren't going away. And literally, just by starting to speak life and speak health into my body, I became healthier. All right. So thoughts become things. They're very, very powerful. And who you listen to, including yourself, is absolutely key to how your body handles stress and to how you experience life. So I want you to think right now, if there was an affirmation. So I've said things like, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I always give up, I don't follow through, I'm not healthy. Like, I want you to think of the things, the negative things that come up in your head throughout the day. Hopefully there aren't any, but if there are, and I want you to kind of come up with one affirmation right now, one thing that you can say back to that. So when that radio station starts playing, you can say, I'm doing the best I can, or I'm working really hard at this, or I'm taking a new step every day. Right? And just figure out what that one statement is that you can start reprogramming the station that plays in your head. And that's how you do it. Just one little statement at a time. Okay? The other thing is when someone asks you, how are you? And you've probably heard this one before, so this might not be new, but try to be crazy positive. Right? So often we just default to, I'm good, I'm hanging in there, doing all right, yeah, I'm okay. But what if you said, I am fabulous? I know it sounds nuts, but your subconscious hears that, and guess what? You start to feel fabulous. So I'll challenge you when someone asks you how you're doing to be crazy positive. And some of us, I think, feel guilty doing that because we feel like, well, if I'm so great and wonderful, like, isn't that going to make the other person feel bad? Actually, no, it makes the other person feel better too, right? Because your light shines light on them. It doesn't shine darkness on them. All right. So think about that the next time, like tomorrow, or maybe later today, if someone says, hey, how are you? Try to be crazy positive. Okay? Yes? Good. All right. So number 6 is prayer and meditation. And I mentioned this earlier with the hand washing, and I loved that. So I have a spiritual practice. It really helps me. It's probably the biggest piece of my stress reduction is just having faith and trusting in something, in a higher power. And, you know, I can give up a lot of the things that might otherwise weigh on my shoulders or cause me stress. So I think having a way to integrate this into your life is really where the challenge lies, right? So we can say, yes, I do pray. And I would love to meditate, but, you know, I'm not good at it, right? So finding ways, whichever it is or both, right? So prayer, meditation, whatever it is for you, but finding ways to integrate that into your life. So whether it's creating a morning practice or an evening practice or something you do every time you wash your hands, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? It's really just connecting with whatever, you know, for you, whatever that spiritual practice looks like. And I just have to say, like, for me, that's the biggest piece, right? That is the absolute biggest piece for me. So I do the other things, I do the food, I do the movement, I do the, you know, positivity, and I'm aware of my thoughts and all of that. But when you're able to actually hand things up and just trust that there is a higher power, or spend that quiet time being still, right? And listening for answers that come when you're in that place. It just gives you so much And I don't, if those of you who've experienced this, you can share in the chat too. But it's absolutely, I think, critical when we're in a stressful time, all right, to make that a priority in your life, to find ways to integrate it into your day, okay? And there's an old joke that says if you have lots of time, then you should meditate for 5 minutes. And if you have no time, then you should meditate for 30 minutes because obviously you need it more. But what usually happens is when you do set aside that time, you start to realize and you start to recognize how time doesn't have to control you anymore, right? And I think that's a good thing right now for some of us, is that we're realizing all the ways that we rushed around in life have slowed down, and we're starting to get a different concept of time and how we spend our time. And there's a little bit more peace maybe around that. Maybe not in other areas, but at least in terms of not having to rush out the door in the morning or race home after work at night, right? There's some changes there in terms of time. So realizing that when you invest in your own spiritual practice, in your own inner peace, right? And that's, I know that sounds like a cliche term, but it's real, right? When you invest in cultivating your own inner peace, those things just, they change. Like what becomes a priority, it just changes, right? There's no more of that rushing. There's no more of that, you just have a different perspective on what's really important. All right, so yeah, so prayer and meditation. I don't think I need to see anything else about that. All right, number 7, essential oils. I think you all know I have to say something about essential oils. And I think most of you use essential oils already, so you have some idea about them and how to use them. But I want to tell you some of the reasons why they work for stress, all right, why they can help and support us in times of stress. So in our brain, we have something called the limbic system. And the limbic system is really our center of emotions, memory, motivation. It does a lot of other things for the body and controls many different things in the body. But that's where I think that the really cool thing with essential oils is, because when you smell an oil, so here I'll have, this is actually called Release. It's one of my favorites. So if you take an oil, if this will drop, come on, Release, and you smell that, bring that in, within 3 seconds, that's in the limbic system of your brain. All right, so it's already having an impact on my center of emotions. And that's why, for me, this is one of the fastest ways to interrupt a stress pattern. It's one of the fastest ways to create a change in how you're feeling emotionally. And I'm not promising that it's going to change anxiety or depression, or right, but when you can actually have something that stimulates the limbic system of the brain that quickly, right? It's really amazing. It's not like saying to someone, okay, I want you to go meditate for an hour, or I want you to go, run 4 miles, or right, like those are all great for stress relief. But if someone doesn't have that time, or they haven't figured out how to integrate that, this is something super simple and quick. Okay. So oils can also help with focus, with grounding and alertness. So even if it's not so much that you're stressed, based on some big thing that's happening, if it's just you have a project that's due and you're having trouble focusing on that, so that's causing you stress. So the oils can also help with those things, right? Getting you grounded so you can focus, getting you so that you're alert enough to do the work that you need to do. And they can also help with relaxation and sleep. So, and everybody's different on that one. So it's kind of a funny thing where, a lot of people will say, oh, lavender, lavender, lavender. Do I have my lavender here? That's a really common one that people will say, oh, use that for sleep, right? It'll help with sleep. It doesn't for everybody. Some people actually get more activated by lavender. I like to use things like Stress Away. My favorite is actually Sacred Mountain. Gentle Baby, I love. And there's lots of other oils that are helpful for sleep and relaxation. So it's just finding what ones work best for you and how to use them. So for some people, it's diffusing them at nighttime to help them relax. For some people, it might be putting oils on the bottom of their feet or doing a little foot massage. Some people actually use them, and I do this. I'll use like lavender and frankincense on my skin at night, right? As like my nighttime skincare routine. So there are different ways to use it to help with relaxation and sleep, and there are different oils that can help with that. All right, there are also oils that are great for supporting the respiratory system. So that's another thing, like for helping with breathing, to help oxygenate, right? If you're getting those nice deep breaths because you're supporting the respiratory system, things like eucalyptus, and there's some other blends that I like for the respiratory system. And then there are oils that actually can relieve muscle tension. So, and this is one, so Stress Away and Peppermint. I wish I could just share these right through the screen with you, but like Peppermint's one that I'll put like right here, right? So if I could get stressed, this is where I tend to feel it, right? Or I might get a tension headache. So if I can take peppermint or wintergreen and put that right on the shoulders, that's an amazing thing. And then you can take a nice deep breath too. So essential oils can be a really great part of your stress response and just what you do naturally every day, right? So you can have oils that you diffuse every day to make you feel more joyful, right? A lot of the citrus oils are really great for kind of lifting the spirits, making you feel more positive. And then you can have oils that you use at night that are more calming and relaxing. And then you can use oils like Stress Away for those heightened moments of stress and, you know, really impact that limbic system of the brain. Okay, and I think I have a couple on here that I went through. Yeah, so lavender contains, and this, as I told you, is highly acclaimed for promoting relaxation, but it's because of two chemical compounds that are in lavender. The one thing I want to tell you though is just be careful about your lavender because there's twice as much lavender sold in this country than is grown. So unfortunately, most of the lavender out there is actually synthetic. It's not real lavender. So make sure you're getting good quality oils because you don't want to be breathing in solvents or pesticides or other chemical fillers. Okay, so lavender is amazing, but just know it is one of the most adulterated in the world. And then peace and calm. Oh, I didn't mention peace and calming. Do I have that one here? That's another one of my favorites. And actually, when my son Thomas was younger, he had pretty bad anxiety, couldn't get to sleep at night when he was like 7 and 8 years old. And so he used to call this the sleepy oil because I would just take a little peace and calming, rub it on his back, rub it on the bottom of his feet, and he would be able to get to sleep. So he, to this day, still uses peace and calming. He's 20 now. And he had it at his dorm in school and was using it and diffusing it there. So very calming, very relaxing blend. That one I just wouldn't spray on like your linens. I wouldn't spray it on your pillows and things because it does have some orange oil in it, which can actually stain your, you know, if you have white pillowcases. And I think, there, we're done. So let me open up the lines for questions. If I can. Maybe. Oh, let me stop sharing. There we go. All right. So I will unmute everyone. And then if you just need to mute your line because you have noise in the background, feel free to do that. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.